Barton Do Not presents Equipment for Crisis Communications. Hello, and welcome to the third of series of 5 workshops associated with creating a crisis communications team at your organization. These workshops are designed for any type of organization: government, non-governmental, nonprofit, and for-profit and/or private sector organizations. It doesn't matter what type of organization you are a part of, everyone is subject to the need for crisis communications. Every one of those groups can be impacted by a disaster, and the 3 disaster phases of before, during, and after. Sometimes disasters impact only one organization, and most times they impact multiple organizations at the same time. These workshops are built upon a concept called POETE, which stands for planning, organizing, equipping, training, and exercising. So this third one is the equipment for crisis communications. What tools your team needs to have before, during, and after any incident or disaster. What exactly is crisis communications? It's a communications made by organizations, sometimes in collaboration and cooperation with others, representing that organization in response to an emergency. Crisis communications is not solely for emergency response organizations. It's for every organization to provide information to the public and its stakeholders, constituent groups, about how the disaster is impacting the organization and what the organization is doing, even if it's just the continuity of operations. There are also times when the crisis communication team needs to prepare reactive messaging that may never be used. If it is needed, chances are that that type of crisis messaging material cannot be quickly designed or approved during the actual crisis itself. Think about crisis communications in the same way we think about first aid, with the steps in order of check the scene for safety, have someone call 911, and then care for the injured. For crisis communications, you need to check the intelligence or information, also known as situational awareness. You need to gather the facts first. Call for assistance. Even if you do not need it now, you will want to have help ready in case something changes. Then communicate your message to the public and your constituent group stakeholders. There are a number of training courses, classes, elements, etc. available on crisis communications, some of which we will highlight in the 4th workshop of this series, the one on training. We are leading with the training from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC's Crisis and Emergency Risk Communications, or CIRC program. They highlight 6 elements that your communications should do. Be first. You want the information about your organization to come from your group, not a third party. It might be part of a larger group of communications, like that from a public information officer, government lead, or a moment later, it may be shared via a third-party service. For example, a radio station repeating snow day school closures, but the official word comes from the school first. Not everyone gets their information from the same sources. Be right. Part of what we first described as check the intelligence, situational awareness, when there is uncertainty, you do not want to repeat or solidify rumors or innuendo. Stay in your lane and take the time to get it right the first time. Be credible. Speak with authority and purpose. Transparency is helpful as well. Working with partners on collaborative communications helps with credibility as well. Express empathy for the public, your own workforce, partners, etc. If the disaster hurt people, even if it has no possible connection to your organization, lead with that. If 3 people were killed during a tornado, your plumbing business shouldn't lead with a press release saying, "We're ready to help you rebuild your homes." Promote action. Encourage people to do the safer things for themselves and their families. Ask your staff to check in with supervisors to make sure they are okay and if they need help. Show respect for the victims first responders, your partners, stakeholders. Disasters and emergencies are stressful times. No need to be disrespectful or indifferent to others. This misstep will become a story and a crisis to your organization itself. Here's how the pieces all fit together under POETE. In this workshop, we are covering equipment, the technology tools needed to perform the crisis communications missions like sending out press releases, social media posts, etc. The other 4 workshops will cover planning, which includes the priorities before, during, and after an incident, organization of the crisis communications team, training needed for the team, and finally the concept of exercising these planning, organization, equipment, and training components via a stair-stepped approach of increasing capability and complexity. Here are some acronyms and short terms you may see in this workshop. If we missed any, or if there are any terms or phrases that we use that are different or difficult to understand, please contact us directly at info@bartondonot.com and note the workshop name and number. In the design of the communications team's overall poetic, there are equipping objectives and strategic priorities. We believe these are some of the important elements of equipping the team before, during, and after any emergency or disaster. There are undoubtedly other elements as well. If you think of any that are generic to any organization, please drop us a line at info@bartondonot.com so we can improve this workshop. Hopefully by now you have a better understanding of how crisis communications is different from marketing or normal day-to-day corporate/organizational communications. It may be conducted by the same individuals, but the timing is very different, as are the stressors and outside impacts to your organization. We will cover a few more specific/tactical actions organized into 3 modules and provide you with an opportunity to practice creating some elements of crisis communications yourself. The preparedness phase is the longest. It's also the phase where you reset to after an incident occurs. Besides the obvious laptops, smartphones, word processing software, independent internet connectivity, cellular hotspots, for example, now is the time to understand how emergency crisis communications tools may operate differently from normal day-to-day ones. Make sure all your applicable team members have access, their own passwords, sign-ons, etc., to the communication systems your organization uses. Mentor and shadow how messages are delivered to the public now, so alternative staff are ready to back up in the future. Don't forget from our first workshop on planning, disasters can be categorized into 3 distinct groupings: natural and human-made disasters, product and process disasters, and fictitious disasters. And another reminder, this could be a 24-hour-a-day operation, so you may need to have backups and other shift coverage. As we noted in the planning and organizations workshops, you should consider having translators for other languages, including American Sign Language, on your team, on call from your staff, or under contract from a third-party vendor. Do not expect to rely on Google Translate to convert your organization's message into other languages. It will not work, and it will cause you to make colloquial mistakes and other idiomatic errors, which can become another crisis for your organization itself. You should also consider who else within your organization, who is not on your crisis response team, might need equipment for communicating with your team. If you're going to bring your building engineering staff into your team's room, for example, or an outside consultant who would not normally have access to your file systems, etc., it would help to have a laptop and cell phone available for them as well. Test how all of this works regularly. Incorporate the new team members to help mentor them, and also the SMEs and contractors too. It also helps to include your executives in this practice session. Show them that your team is ready, and that gives them themselves a chance to practice being the spokesperson under a simulated stressful crisis scenario. Finally, think about the business continuity aspects. If your crisis communications team needed to set up shop in a hotel conference room, what other equipment would they need? Would they need a copier, a fax machine? These are 2 examples of tech items that people usually do not take home with them every night, or can grab on the go or on the fly when they're evacuating an office. If they can't get to the office to work on a crisis communications, where can they? And what equipment do they need? Now it's your turn to practice. Please draft the list of equipment needed in total for your crisis communications team, including whether this equipment is something the team normally has on their own day-to-day operations, will have to be assigned to them during the incident, including turning on extra capability. For example, if they have organization-owned smartphones, but not hotspots enabled, that would need to be turned on. Or if their equipment has to be acquired from an outside vendor during the activation period for the incident. Depending upon how you're conducting this workshop, you can log your responses with your facilitator. You can use our Barton Do Not blog post at blog.bartondonot.com/EPA, lowercase EPA, and select the Crisis Communications Workshop section under Equipment in Module 1. The practice area for this one is the link called Equipment Module 1, AWR-EC1. You can use that blog post to record your practice material in a reply to that post and to view the work of others who have taken this workshop. The response phase has its own elements to consider. Now is the time to not only use the preparedness work done beforehand, but also to prepare to expand the crisis team crisis communications team with additional subject matter experts, translators, even backup and release staff. This crisis could require a 24-hour-a-day response by the team. You need to turn on the plan to provide equipment for more people. You might even need an on-site tech person from your team or a contractor. During the response to a crisis, continue to document the time and resources being used. This is important for human resources, paid time off calculations, possibly even submission to the government for reimbursement, cost share. This is also the time to capture how new equipment, systems, technology was utilized. It may be useful for the future scenarios. Also capture the roadblocks and challenges your team is facing related to the equipment that they're using. And think about both the quick fixes and longer-term improvements needed, and hopefully those that will be approved by your management team that are going to happen for the next crisis. Now's your chance to practice again. Please draft the equipment request for 3 additional team members using whatever equipment request process or forms your organization uses. This may be different for emergencies versus normal day-to-day operations. Also draft a request for a copier rental from a third-party vendor for 1 month and complete any organizational forms or processes to have a third-party consultant, that is a translator, access your systems and cloud-based files. This will help prepare your team to understand now how these requests will be made during a crisis. Plus, it will help document the steps, forms, approvals, etc. needed as part of your crisis communications team plan. Depending upon how you're conducting this workshop, you can log your responses with your facilitator, or you can use our Barton Do Not blog post at blog.bartondonot.com/EPA and select the Crisis Communications Workshop section under Equipment and Module 2. This practice area for this one is called Equipment Module 2 AWR-EC1. You can use that blog post to record your practice material and reply to that post and view the work of others who have taken this workshop. Once the crisis is over, there is an opportunity to formally reflect and capture information on best practices implemented and areas for improvement. This is called an after-action reporting and improvement planning. And by the way, this may well be beyond the traditional response phase of an emergency responders. If your facility, production, reputation, or other areas continue to be impacted well beyond the public's view of this disaster, your crisis communications team may still need to be in response mode well into recovery. There may also be thank you communications that need to be created and communicated, and also anniversary messages that need to be crafted or at least started, if applicable based on the disaster. Think about an active shooter incident at your office and how complex the communications will be continuing in the days and weeks and months and even years after that incident. Don't forget when you start to demobilize your staff, contractors, and others on your team, you'll need to return borrowed or rented equipment. Also, temporary access to systems and softwares may need to be turned off. Last chance in this unit to practice. Practice the process to return equipment which was borrowed or rented, including third-party items. Don't forget the process to turn off temporary access to systems and cloud-based files, which may have been granted to vendors and outside contractors. Depending upon how you're conducting this workshop, you can log your responses with your facilitator, or you can use our Barton Do Not blog post at blog.bartondonot.com/EPA and select the Crisis Communications Workshop section under Equipment and Module 3. This practice area for this one is called Equipment Module 3 AWR-EC1. You can use that blog post to record your practice materials and reply to that post and view the work of others who have taken this workshop. Congratulations on completing this third workshop. We hope you will take the next one in the series, the one focused on training, which is entitled Training for Crisis Communications Workshop number 4. Once your team has completed the series of 5 workshops, please consider conducting a tabletop exercise with your team and then evaluate the results for modifications to your POETA process. Then work towards a functional exercise in others. Never stop learning something new and practicing as much as you can.